Morning. Okay, can I get a motion to reconvene into open session with possible action related to the subject of the preceding closed session?
I'll make a motion to go into open session at 7:56 p.m.
I'll second it, I guess. All those in favor?
Aye.
Where is he? Aye.
He's in the bed. That's a quorum.
It is, oh, it is,
Going,
okay.
yeah.
So do we have to do anything? No.
You wanna make a motion to hire him?
What?
You wanna make a motion to hire him? Is it the recommendation of council?
Oh, okay.
Council for final approval.
Okay. So I will make a motion to send to council the approval of hiring Jake Shelpfeffer as the DPW director,
Effective
October,
upon Jack's retirement.
oh, upon Jack's retirement, okay. Wasn't sure if there was a date or not.
All right, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Should we take the roll? Aye. Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned at 8:02.
All right. Discussion from council.
Alright. Oh, who wants these things?
I call the Mayville Special Common Council order at 8:03. Please take the roll.
Alderperson Baker.
Here.
Alderperson Smith.
Here.
Alderperson Henkel.
Here,
Alderperson Leibnow.
Here.
Alderperson Newman.
Here.
Alderperson Olson.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, any citizen comments tonight? I would like to say that I'm very thankful for all the first responders, the police departments, fire departments that came to our aid in our grief and tornado. With all the volunteers and all the staff, all the way from the city's hall staff, all the way down to the parks and DPW guys and everybody else in between, the tag center. It was all hands on deck, and we did a tremendous job getting everything up and running that night and in the coming days that were preceding the tornado. So I would like to thank all of our businesses and residents as well. It was fabulous, so thank you very much. All right. Item 3, discuss the possible action, May 15th, 2025 disaster declaration. Want to please read?
I apologize, I did not print that out.
It's basically a declaration that the call on May 15th was a disaster for state of emergency for the city of Mayville.
You need a motion for that?
Yeah,
All right, I'll make that motion.
is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion made by Olson, second by Levino. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Discuss with possible action resolution 5997-2025, resolution approving the sale of general obligation notes, series 20258. This was on the bond, you know the money, right?
Mhm.
That went through a private institution. Is there any, anybody want to say anything on that?
No, this is just required to approve besides all the documentation we signed already, so they're waiting for this resolution.
You know, it's for 3.2 million.
Yes.
All right, motion by Newman, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Levino, any discussion? All right, take the roll.
Alderperson Newman.
Aye.
Alderperson Leibnow.
Aye.
Alderperson Olson.
Aye.
Alderperson Henkel. Aye. Alderperson Smith.
Aye.
Alderperson Baker.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, discuss with possible action appointment to DPW director that was just decided that Jake Shelpfepper would be starting when Jack Hurst retires as a DPW/Parks Director. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Motion by Newman, second by Smith. Any discussion? Please take the roll.
Alderperson Newman,
Aye.
Alderperson Smith,
Aye.
Alderperson Baker.
Aye.
Alderperson Henkel. Aye. Alderperson Lehnow.
Aye.
Alderperson Olson.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, discuss with possible action, work change directive number 3 for excess rubble for the waste treatment facility upgrades. And that should be in your packet. There was extra cost.
And there were supplemental handouts because Steve South sent over updated information, so they are in front of you on the desk here today.
Apparently, the behind the sewer plant, there was extra rubble that they encounter that costs extra to clean up. And what was the cost on that? 25,000 something?
It's 117,472.
117,472.65.
The question I had is, how much do we put in contingency for the,
The clean water fund makes you keep 5% contingency, so you have 1.3 million in contingency. So the work change directive would be approving the work with an estimated cost at this point, because they're all quantity based. We don't know the exact volume removed until they do it. So this would be an estimated cost. You'd still see a final change order come through
okay,
with the final dollar amount to change the contract price.
well, just wondering, because I know if it's 1.4 million or 5 million with the contingency rate, I mean, what we're proving tonight, we're almost $500,000. That's about a third of our contingency. And we're only in the first month of the project.
Yeah.
That's my concern, right?
Most projects that I would say the high dollar amount change orders come from digging into the ground. They have the hole excavated for the main building. The other main components that are being constructed underground would be the rubble removal that you see here. Obviously, they've dug down into those piles. It looks to be just surface pile material from previous construction projects that trees grew upon for the past 40 years. Until those trees were removed, there was not, you couldn't really see how much rubble was there. I don't know what's buried beneath there, but it looked like in the past those were old farm fields.
I thought there was some, I thought that, it must have been my misunderstanding. I thought you guys did some core sampling out there before.
They did excavate, they did do soil borings in the center of that treat area, so they had to remove some trees to get back there. In the geotech report, it does note that there is some rubble and debris to be removed. How much quantity wasn't estimated by the geotech firm. The plan sheets show surface elevations. It wasn't until the trees were removed that the excavation company could do a drone flyover and see the mound of dirt and calculate how much debris they thought was there.
Good.
Was there any hazardous materials in there or?
They haven't dug down into the piles. I did see, man, that's why I put some photos in here. There's chunks of metal, there's old street projects, there's some storm inlets, some manhole covers.
When are you gonna know if there's asbestos or other slag and
Well, that's on the
stuff
other
that
side.
has to be isolated?
That's on the other side of the highway, because this is right by the sewer plant.
I know, but you don't know what's there.
Did you talk to them? There is a contingency, or no, there's an allowance, I should say, in the project for removing hazardous materials. So if there was something that they felt they needed to do additional testing on, there's an allowance built into the project, they can draw on that.
Reason I ask is because it's next to the river and there's low areas there and you're changing the topography and you could get some runoff that is hazardous. But that's all right. I just was curious.
So it's 117,000 estimated cost. All right, is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
All right, motion by DeBaker,
Second.
second by Newman. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I oppose.
Take the roll again.
Alderperson Baker.
Aye.
Alderperson Newman.
Aye.
Alderperson Olson.
Nay.
Alderperson Leitnow.
Aye.
Alderperson Henkel.
Aye.
Alderperson Smith.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, discuss the possible action, work change directive number 4, over excavation for the water treatment facility upgrade project. This is in the front of the building now?
This is for the new.
This is for the
admin
new administration building, so where that sits would have been on the south side of the former parking lot area. There was a soil boring taking in the center where that building would have lied, which would have been south of the parking lot, so in the grassed area. That soil boring did not show any serious concerns with any geotechnical over excavation, but this area is also a former lagoon site, so 40 years ago, there was a lagoon there. When they filled in that lagoon, they filled it in with concrete, rubble, and debris from somewhere else on the site, which was buried underneath the parking lot. So as CD Smith started digging down, they started finding concrete rubble. They got to the bottom of the lagoon, and there was some softer soils. So the geotech firm recommendation was to over excavate an extra foot so that they could get down to some solid soil and then backfill to bring it back up with some better gravel fill. And that's what this.
Yeah, we have, the soil is gonna be good enough to be compacted, so we could actually put a site there?
Yes.
And what we talking for a cost on this, 20 something?
71,500.
This one, at the time I gave it to you for the meeting packet, I estimated an area based on the extra foot plus the width. There was a revision from CD Smith that actually calculated the volume based on what the
The excavators were able
excavators.
to calculate how much they actually took out of the hole where the building
So
stood.
we have 71,000 in front of us.
So there's additional cost on here, because this was slated to be on the previous meeting. So CD Smith is asking for additional money for the delay in time for approval. Because not having a hole excavated, not being able to build is delaying the construction timeline.
Can you explain to me what self-performed markup means?
Do we approve it or anything? Is it a charge?
That's work performed by the contractor, CD Smith. So if it was a work performed by a subcontractor, there's a different markup percentage that the Clean Water Fund allows.
Well, I guess I got a question on that. So we have a director on site. Why wouldn't our director just give you permission to go ahead and continue with the project?
I guess it's up to you.
Well, I'm just wondering, why would you be charged, why would CD Smith be charging us more money if you couldn't do the construction of the project right away? That's why we have a person on staff that, right, that we appointed to.
Well, that would have to be direction from the common council. I mean, I gave her direction that any change orders.
Yeah, I guess our thought was, we didn't want to proceed with the work if it wouldn't be approved, right? We would be taking on risk at that point to move forward. And then I guess based on what we were hearing, that we needed to get this amount approved to then move forward with the construction of Structure 800.
I guess there would need to be a clarification whether or not, I'm saying you're assuming Courtney would be able to approve something on site, but to what dollar amount? I think it's typical that councils would give that person a certain threshold dollar amount, whereas if they could do immediate on-site approval of
So 71,000 plus, what's the addition
this.
amount?
So this is a final price.
71,000.
Also note that this is a work change directive. This is not a change of the contract price yet. If you don't like the price, there's some room to negotiate, I'm assuming with CD Smith. How you do that, subject to discussion. But the work change directive is to get the work moving forward again, and then you would see a price, final one, come through on a change order. This is CD Smith's
So
process.
what I've been asking Courtney for are change orders. I was trying to ask her numerous times, what do you mean by a directive? What do you mean by a directive? So I think there's confusion here. The directive should be coming from Courtney. The change orders actually should be coming for approval then once it's happening. Because I wasn't familiar with like a directive. I said, usually when you have RFP and you have your bids, the only time you're coming back is when you actually have a change order. So there might be some confusion there with Courtney and with me, because I know I asked her numerous times, like, this isn't a change order.
Yeah, so the reason we use the word change directive in this case is it's a quantity-based work that they're gonna be doing. They wanna know they can do the work, even though the final price isn't worth it. It'd be different if it was swapping out a piece of equipment where they knew the exact price. I can write a change order up for that right away and give it to you. It doesn't halt any construction, but if there's something that's quantity-based where they have to do a large dollar amount, it's in my best interest to write you a work change directive so you can get discussion on it, so that they're not proceeding with something at the risk of them losing money if they don't approve it.
So my issue is who's watching our buttons on the line. I know that you're set on the project and you're watching the project for us. I know there's some gun shyness from how this got all approved in the first place, and people are real hesitant about things. I don't feel that we should get dinged on the, delay claim, just, for that type of money. If you see my side of the point at all, I don't think we should get dinged on that. I think it should have been already okay. I know it's extra, and I know we got the contingency fund to go at it. I think that obviously Stephanie, as a city administrator, could make that decision on extra money that's gonna go on. Or court, like you said, Mayor.
Well, how do we, my question is, how do we stop this from happening again? So this happens again, I want you, CD Smith, you got problems, either come to the city administrator,
Yeah.
right? Because she's ultimately could be the authority on this whole thing.
Well, and I don't really, I'm confused too, because your change directive, it is waiting to be processed, directive number 1, and which came for approval, but it's still waiting to be processed as a formal change order. I'm so confused. We shouldn't have to, a directive is, okay, we have to do this, it might cost that. Okay, go ahead and do it. We gotta finish the project, right? But what needs to come here are change orders. I've been trying to get that to Courtney, explain that to her. I don't know where all these directives have come from, and I just feel like,
Just more clear communication and
right,
less people involved in it.
well, I
Hey,
don't,
CD Smith, we had a problem, we have concrete. Hey, guys, project managers, what do you think? Talk to the city. Okay, good. City says, yeah, go ahead, boom, done. We don't have that. That was pretty easy, but
Is there any chance that we pass the point of worrying about we're not down to the substrata? Is there any chance that somebody's gonna say we need piering or we need, pilasters or anything like that? There's no chance that's gonna happen now? That would be a dramatic change order.
Yeah, so we had PSI back on site. Once we removed that concrete, we removed the organics, they came back on site and they were testing the required, strength.
Capacity.
Yes.
It's not a deep structure, it's just basically a foundation wall for an administrative building and garage. It's not like it's a deep water holding structure or something like that.
So is the project back on track now with this whole thing, or are you still waiting for the?
We're waiting for these approvals so that they can proceed. They pretty much haven't done anything in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, we
Waiting for this
either
meeting.
were gonna start structure 800, or we were gonna start where all these rubble piles were. Both of them kind of got on hold, so, yeah, now that we gain approval on them, we'll get Andrew excavating back on site and we can.
you said we can negotiate price too also, right? Project,
On work change directive 4, I think it can be up for negotiation.
okay, make a motion
Motion for what?
to pay and continue on.
$71,000?
Yes,
Motion's not to pay them out, it's to sign the work.
motion to go. Yeah.
your price is coming back on your actual change order.
Right.
That's where I'm.
A motion to carry on,
Okay,
to move the project on along.
motion by Newman, is there a second? Second by Levino, any
Sorry.
discussion?
So, we put them on the last common council meeting, but they didn't get action because there was no price. But if it's a directive, we didn't need a price. So I'm confused that you wanna ding us now with delaying your project. Annie, am I correct? It was on the
And
agenda.
we still have, work directive number 2 that they asked us not to bring forward because of additional information, so.
That would have been 2 weeks ago.
And did we have an exceeding
met-
amount that we were going by?
That was something else. That was actually something different.
So is this costing us anything, this argument they're having? Or are we?
71,000 potentially. But we need to do it to keep the project in.
Yeah, we need directives to be approved in the field. Change orders need to come back to the common council.
That needs
We'll
to be
clear that
made
up.
clear, yes.
Yeah.
That was good, $4,000. Okay. I think it would be-
All right, anybody else, any other discussion?
Kind of crazy.
All right, all in favor of approving number 4 for 71,000 and some change, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
Opposed,
Motion carries. Discuss with possible action, section 5.4, overtime compensation time of the city of Maple employee handbook as it pertains to overtime and work hours. So I guess we're done with you guys. But we're gonna be in contact.
Yes, yep, for sure.
Thanks for hanging out with us.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thanks. Okay, who put this on there? Discuss the possible action, 5.4, overtime compensation time of the city of Maple employee handbook.
This is the one that was tabled
Oh,
from personnel.
This is Judy Powers thing, isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah, finance.
yeah.
No special council meeting.
Over there.
Yeah, it was prior on the personnel finance as a whole, and, yeah,
All right.
it was tabled, so we moved it here.
Oh, yeah, I remember. The minutes, fine.
3 off this table.
No, it was previously, and that's how it got there.
Right.
All right. Bob, so on this 5.4 overtime compensation, you want to change the employee handbook on this, or?
Me?
Yeah,
As far as I know, I don't want to change anything. All I was saying was that the employees sign the employee handbook. They acknowledge that they will work under the rules outlined in the employee handbook. And in the employee handbook, it talks about overtime in regard to being called in beyond their shift. And it's plain language in there. I don't know what needs to be changed. It's pretty simple. You get a guaranteed, whatever it is, hour, and at time and a half, if it's beyond your shift. And it's pretty self-explanatory. I don't know what the controversy was to begin with.
we have that somewhere? in?
Yeah, I have a copy. Do you want a copy? Everybody signs the damn thing. I don't know why there was any misunderstanding, unless somebody here can't read English.
Because it says 40 hours worked.
No, that doesn't say that. That's the previous paragraph. The paragraph that they signed says overtime compensatory time. It says right here, all hourly employees shall be paid at the rate of 1.5 times their hourly rate for work in excess of 40 hours per week in cash or compensatory time off, the employee's option. All employees should be paid a minimum of 1 hour at a rate of 1.5 times their hourly rate when they are called in on their normal schedule of hours. If you don't want to pay them that, you're gonna have to change the employee handbook, because that's what they agreed to. And there's no such thing as hours worked. This is extra, this is when you're called in outside of your ordinary shift. You wanna see it later?
calm down.
Well, I cannot believe people don't read. You require these employees to sign this stuff, and then you wanna welch on the deal. If you wanna welch on the deal, change the handbook.
Is there a subsection or something we talking about? Let me see it.
Am I right or wrong, chief?
I can explain how this came.
So go to the podium.
I introduced this stuff, and it had to do with the public, not only the, police department special, employees, but also the, EMS people. We had a whole big, we had 8 years working on an employees manual, and we carved out a situation to compensate people who are called in outside their normal hours.
All right, I can give you a background on how I got involved in this. So, about a year ago, as my understanding, the city administrator changed how my administrative assistant Judy Bauer was paid. And by that I mean that she would be paid overtime only if she worked, meaning in the building working 40 hours. If she had a holiday that was scheduled or took a vacation day or something like that, then she would not get overtime. If, say, she was called in on a Wednesday night for a police report that needed to be typed or something that needed to be done, and there was a scheduled holiday on Friday for Easter. And that's how this came about this year, is Judy came to me and she was upset because she had worked overtime, she got called in, and then had to take a holiday on Friday, and had put on there that she worked overtime, but then that got denied. And part of her holiday hours got taken back and she didn't get that overtime for outside of that. And I will say that, and then I brought it to the attention of the city administrator, and we talked about, there are some other things in this for DPW and utility employees and that we could look at or work on to maybe change it up or something like that. But what bothers me about the whole thing is a couple of things. First of all, it was a fight that I came to the council with 3 years ago to get Judy Bauer up to the wage scale of the county employees, because the county administrative assistants, confidential administrative assistants that have the tenure that Judy has, over 25 years, were getting paid much more than she was. And we worked through it with the council, and the council agreed that we raised her wage above the normal amount of the other employees. And that was also included that if she got called in outside of her normal shift for the day, that she would be paid overtime. And that was changed. It was not discussed with me when it was changed. It was just changed. It was not discussed with Judy. And the current employee handbook, which I got from Annie, which is dated August of 2020, it says in here, with one paragraph, that all hourly employees shall be paid at the rate of 1.5 times their hourly rate for work in excess of 40 hours. It doesn't decipher whether it's if they take a holiday or vacation or anything else. It just says work. And the next paragraph, it says all employees should be paid a minimum of 1 hour if they get called in outside their normal shift scheduled hours. Now, my officers of the union contract, that's how it works with them. The county, the county administrative assistants that work in the law enforcement section, that's how they get paid. They get called in after outside their shift or get held over because there's stuff that needs to get done, meaning stuff that needs to be reported to the DA's office tomorrow because of arrest or anything like that. An example, just this past Sunday night, we had a juvenile referral. We had someone that we had in custody and we needed paperwork out Monday morning or Tuesday morning. So these things happen. They're outside of our control. And I just think, especially for someone like Judy, who, according to the wage schedule in the employee handbook, is under level 2, that she should fall under this so that she gets paid outside her normal shift. If she gets called in or has to be held over, whether she takes a holiday or vacation day or anything like that, I believe that's the right thing to do, especially for someone of her tenure and, let's face it, her dedication and that to the city. And I also look at this, that for someone that gets past that 20-year mark and accumulates that 5 weeks of vacation and that, it's almost as if because they have all that vacation and they want to use it in that, if they have to be held in or that they're not going to get paid overtime on that because they use their benefits. I don't think that's appropriate. And that's why I brought it. I want to bring it to the council for you to look at. The wording is the wording that she has worked under. She was paid this way and has taken overtime this way, the way that it's worded, outside of normal shift for 23 years. And it was recently changed. And I believe that it should go back to that. Now, I see it says all hourly employees. I don't put her in a category of the same as the rest of the employees. Judy's not that. She's level 2 according to the handbook, and I think that's how it should be approached. So, and that's what I wanted to bring to council for you to consider.
So you put this on the agenda?
Well, I initially went to the city administrator to ask what to do with it. I contacted Alderperson Smith, asked him what he thought, because he's in the beginning there. There was a whole bunch of stuff in the middle of that went on that I'm very upset about, and that will be something we'll talk about at a later date that went on in this. But this is the most important thing, because if someone doesn't stand up for our employees or stand up for Judy for something like this, an employee that's far more dedicated than anybody that I know that works for the city.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
So did you or the lieutenant call her in? You guys are talking about, did you call her in outside of her normal shift?
Yes.
Okay.
And she writes on her timesheet why she has to come in and what it's for, right down to the case number.
And one of you guys sign off on it, I'm thinking.
Yep.
And you send it into the payroll.
Absolutely.
All right.
And that's how we do it with all the officers.
Has she ever said, no, I'm not coming in?
I mean, I'm sure there's been times where she wasn't available. I couldn't
And we have to
specific.
talk about all employees, that's what, it doesn't say Judy Bowler on here for a reason.
Right.
So he says I changed it, I did not change anything, I'm enforcing your employee handbook as it's written. So when the city gives you a benefit, by using the benefit, that is not hours worked. The city's paying you to stay home, paying you for your holiday, paying you for a sick day. So what was happening? Then numerous employees were on vacation until Wednesday, and they would come in on a Saturday and Sunday. Sunday, they were paid double time, and Saturday, they were paid hour and a half. So when I started, this is the Fair Employment Standards Act. You're paid for 40 hours worked. You're in the general employee category. Police department, I mean, there's other employees that it happened, and the comptroller and I have worked through this. We're not going to continue to enforce your employee handbook that isn't correct.
Well, I
This
think
is a benefit that they were taking. So if she,
Okay.
I'd like to just, so contract, this, I'm gonna refer to this as contract language. Contract language, there's a few different important aspects. Number one is intent. Number two is it can be interpreted many different ways. I would say this is poorly written in the fact
that's
that,
why we're updating the employee handbook.
right, I'm just pointing out the fact that like call-in language is always spelled out specifically in a different paragraph. I know it's a paragraph, but it should be called out separately. And, call-in language, like you said, you call her in, and then where I work, you get 4 hours pay. You get called in. That means you went home or you left the building and you came back. So I see what you're saying. I think that paragraph in itself supersedes the 40-hour rule. No, you were there, you know the intent of the language. It's very important. And as far as, Judy's, tenure and all that stuff, I don't think that's necessarily,
No, it's not pertinent.
we can't separate her from it as much as we'd like to. I also think you go down the line here and it says, Sundays and holidays are double time. That supersedes the 40-hour rule too, in my opinion. I thought this was referring to, when I first read the call-in rule, I thought that applied to Saturdays, but it does not. But Sundays and holidays, they should be getting double time if they took the whole week off. In my opinion.
You know, this came about because, this is a special situation because these guys, they have people in handcuffs and they have warrants and they have to be processed and taken to the jail and so forth. And not every officer is equipped to do this. So the question at the time was, what would it cost us to not have to worry about this? We would have to have another administrative assistant available at night. We'd have to add an employee. I mean, the way we have it written, if you have dedicated employees who don't have much of a life otherwise, and they're willing to just, at the drop of a hat, come in and do booking paperwork so that we don't have to have somebody chained up in the garage here. I mean, that's the other alternative. We could put a little cell in there. I mean, this is the most efficient way of handling this.
We're kind of getting off,
No, I'm telling you why we did what we
we're kind
did.
of getting off track here.
But the police department also has a part-time administrative assistant.
Right, well, I think the issue here is that the paragraph, like Mr. DeBaker said, says that if she called in, she'd get time and a half.
Right.
Chief said he called her in. I think she probably should get the time and a half.
But her job description says can be scheduled on weekends, up to 2 hours.
Well, but if she was scheduled, I would assume her regular schedule is Monday through Friday, right? If it
But
happened
it
on,
could have been that she's scheduled for weekends.
was she
Doesn't include
scheduled?
any
It
overtime.
wasn't
then.
scheduled for weekends, that had nothing to do with this. No. And to date, Judy's less than $1,000 of overtime for the whole year, and part of that's the tornado stuff. And it was budgeted for, it was budgeted for this purpose. I mean, that's how I looked at it at the beginning of the year, that's how it was last year. It's never been a concern about the cost or the outside, but that's how it's budgeted.
With that, I just want to say one thing, and I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about somebody else.
Sure.
And I want it for, that I'm doing payroll correctly, is that if somebody takes 8 hours of vacation, but they still worked, some were taking like during their day and putting overtime, and still taking a vacation day on Friday. So I just want to make sure that I'm not.
If someone works 34 hours in a week and he takes 8 hours of vacation, right? They would not get 4 hours overtime.
That's what I do,
That's not
clarification.
considered worked out.
No, we've had that problem at the
Okay,
tax center and
it's
other
the same
places, they game
situation.
the system.
No,
This
he
is not
called
that.
her in on the weekend to come in.
No, it was during the week, called her in during the week.
It's a nighttime thing.
And then after her regular hours, and then she had a holiday because of
So what's
Easter.
the justification?
What's that?
I mean, that she should be treated differently than other employees.
Because of the nature of the work. I mean, she has to come in and do it. We
I think
have
we're
to,
just clarifying, sorry to interrupt, we're just clarifying the language.
yeah,
I mean, she was home, and you called her in.
Yep.
So that second paragraph applies.
Right.
No matter what goes on the other days of the week.
right. And that's the way it had been since she started working.
Now, if you, it's whatever time she leaves, it's 4 o'clock, she leaves at 4:30 and you say to her, hey, can you stay 2 hours and do this job or whatever? I would argue that unless she works 40 hours, she doesn't get overtime for that.
No, I disagree with that. I think that if she works outside her shift, her normal scheduled hours, she works outside that.
If you call her in.
And there are times where that happens, but we get busy during the day and we don't leave till midnight sometimes.
See, that sounds like a union contract though, but,
Yes.
so here's what the deal is, we're trying that, I'm not in favor of you, or I'm not in favor of Judy, or, I hear 40 hours a week, every job I worked at, once you're over 40, and you start getting kind of that. We're just trying to keep everybody the same. Judy, yes, specialized skills maybe. Someone that's accepting utility payments here too, maybe get called in a tornado. I don't see us justifying time and a half for that at all. I see, come on in, yes, thank you. You're already got 38 hours on the time clock now. and we need you during an emergency, now we're paying you, oh, you're up to 40, now we're at 40, yeah.
And then I
But
also
that's
look
not
at,
what the contract,
Yeah,
that's
it's
not
not
what the
the-
employee handbook.
Yeah.
Employee handbook says.
And that, obviously, they're working on that, so if there was a mistake here, we, pay her the time and a half and say, sorry, and have a great night, that's it. Sorry, we made a mistake, and there it is, and then we fix that, obviously, right now as a council.
but I will also want to clarify that different government agencies do pay their confidential administrative assistants for law enforcement that differently than they do general employees. And the sheriff's department is one of them and is a direct competitor. So that's how they pay them, it's after 8 hours.
Yeah, but that's not what the employee handbook says.
I know that, but I'm just saying, from a retention standpoint, I mean, that's a real thing.
Yeah.
So,
Then we should probably change it for her position. You wanna,
and that was another thing that was
I don't
discussed.
think that's the argument. The argument is she signed an acknowledgement of the employee handbook for working outside of her regular schedule. She had assumed, she acknowledged the handbook, she acknowledged that paragraph. She was working under the understanding that that's the way she was compensated. And, I'm sure she'd work the other way if we changed it, but she didn't, that's not what she signed. She signed the one that is in force until 2020. Right?
Anybody else?
So if she's on vacation all week and called in on Saturday for 2 hours, she gets time and a half.
I think she gets double time according to this.
on Saturday?
That's Sundays and holidays.
Oh, I'm sorry, holidays and Sundays.
I think she's your time now,
Even if she's on, what,
if she's called in.
so you better put that paragraph in there like that, that's only for the police, because then,
Well, right now it's for everybody.
I mean, it's written right there, it's in there.
but a call-in is for your DPW, your utilities.
Yeah,
It's not to your general employees, a call-in. I mean, the heading on that is even wrong. It says comp time and it's talking about your 40 hours work. I mean, nothing about that paragraph is correct.
Right, I think that we need to clarify right now whether,
So administrative assistant is call-in. That's a stretch.
I just think it's something that he had, it's a situation that's unique to the police department. I don't think you'd ever need to call in an hourly employee at the take center. And if you did, then she time and a half.
There's a lot of examples where she has to come in early in the morning as well.
There was a prime example of that happening, because they had to get their memberships in. She was called in. She had the holidays, so it wasn't hours worked. I mean, this is just gonna be one of them, because I'm not gonna enforce any of them now. I can't decipher.
So we probably should change that language then, or we're gonna have to put it in whatever, she's a level 2, you said. Or change that level.
right, I think we've got two issues going on here. One, should she get the compensation? And two, going forward, what we need to do.
Right, I think I'm okay with the compensation, but we're gonna have to change something so that we can't just delegate this to one person. It's spread across all the employees. And do we make it a different situation, or what level would she be if it was considered she gets called in? Get time and a half? We're not going by the double time, are we, for holidays?
Well, like the administrator said, someone's on a week on vacation all that, right? Someone calls her in. Department head calls her in on a Saturday, but she gets time and a half. That's definitely outside of her shift that she's called in on a weekend.
Okay.
This only happens for emergency personnel or public safety personnel, like when we had an issue with the dams, we had to call somebody in to adjust something, or when they had when somebody had to come in and operate a pump or a generator with flooding. I mean, those are specific situations where you call somebody in, and that's you know, and they come. This is not for somebody who's doing paperwork after their shift or anything like that. These are specific public safety or emergency situations.
That's what it should state.
Yeah, it's up to the department head to manage it. He knows when he's got to call her in.
She should.
The other
She's not
option,
calling, she's a scheduled employee.
the other option would be to make it a salary position.
How could she be salaried?
No, you can't do that. We've talked about that.
Then what? Then they could call her in, she could work 90 hours a week, just, stop.
She,
That's the other option, besides the other two.
I don't think there's anything wrong with the way it's written, as long as people understand how it applies.
Well, that's the problem. We gotta have something that I'm writing and make it clear on how it applies. You're probably gonna have to reach out to the labor attorney and
And I did already.
what do you think?
That treat her as 40 hours worked. She's an office person. She's not a call-in. She's not salaried. She's not a union position. So I'll get clarification.
What classifies a person as a call-in?
Tell me that's called in a snow emergency, the dam was leaking, or, so it's usually your DPW, your utility workers, because there's water running somewhere, so you're called in.
And they don't, it's not for emergency management, or, you know, if that's what you'd want to call it, but
But what is she doing when she comes in? She's doing reports.
No,
For
this
the
is
officers.
special, this is booking and public safety, this is
court
yes, filling out arrest documents so that,
Yeah.
so that somebody can process an individual, take them in his handcuffs to the jail, because there's a warrant on him.
So I'll explain, the process of it is,
Jesus.
we have an intricate process that has redundancy in it, so that stuff is done correctly. And the process being is the officer who's out in the field goes out, makes an arrest, or deals with a situation which requires to take somebody into custody. There is very specific paperwork that has to be done and stuff that that officer has to do. And that officer in our city is doing that generally by himself, because we don't have a bunch of other officers here to do it. We only have 6 patrol officers, and generally, and half of them work nights, and half of them work during the day. And some of them on their days off, some of them, and they're working 12-hour shifts. So when Judy comes in, she's not just responsible for just typing a report. She's responsible for making sure that the officer does and has everything in that's complete. She's responsible for entering it into our data management system and making sure that it's routed correctly. And then it goes to us as supervisors. We look it over, make sure that there's nothing that needs to be done. Then it goes back to Judy, and then that information gets sent out to the proper court, whether it be corporation counsel or whether it be the DA's office, human services. I mean, there's 1,000 possibilities. And all of this works as a well-oiled machine. Our department works really well. And when Judy needs to come in, she takes care of business and then leaves. There's no screwing around. And the officers work well with her, and it just works. And we do have part-time employees, and we can say, why don't we call it a part-time employee? But it takes years to develop what she's able to do, and it takes she can do it in half the time. So all of this is just part of our structure, the way that we work and operate and get things done. And for her not to get overtime, to get called in to do what she's expected to do at the level that she does, I have a very difficult time.
Typically, she is getting overtime. It's only when she takes a holiday or a sick day. I mean, she gets overtime
Sure,
most of the time.
but the holidays she
Because
doesn't have
it's
a
only within
choice.
that week.
The holidays she has to take, it's scheduled she has to take.
Correct, because that's a benefit.
So
So paying the city for her on that day.
All right, well, I think in essence of time here, I think we need to go back and get some clarification from the attorney on that paragraph. On under 5.4, so I'd entertain a motion table this next month.
I'll make a motion to table this till the next meeting.
Is there a second? Any discussion?
Thank you, Ryan.
thank you.
All those in favor say
Aye.
Me,
Opposed? All right. Item 4, closed session pursuant to state statute 19.851C and 19.851G, Wisconsin State Statute 19.851C, concerning employment, promotion, compensation, performance, evaluation data of any public employee over which the governing body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility.
I make a motion.
Discuss annual evaluation of the city comptroller treasurer and the city administrator. Motion by Newman. Second. Second by Levino. Any discussion? All in favor? All.
Alderperson Newman,
Aye.
Alderperson Levino.
Aye.
Alderperson Olson,
Aye.
Alderperson Henkel,
Aye.
Alderperson Smith,
Aye.
Alderperson DeBaker.
Three.
I'm going to close this down.